right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Coach Steve Show. Today, sitting down with me is Coach Mac or Coach Mike. He gave me two names, so we're going to go with that. He's the assistant O-line GA at Eastern Michigan University. Coach, thank you for being here. We just talked for a whole podcast, I think, just a minute ago, but that's non-recorded that we can't put out there.
Yeah, no, Coach Steve, I really appreciate you having me on, man. It was nice talking with you before we got started, and I'm looking forward to a good show.
Yeah, we talked. I always talk to people first to get it going. We don't hop on and record. So, but sometimes the non-record stuff is better than what's recorded, which sucks. If it was a Joe Rogan show, we could release it, but we can't do that. So I'm curious how you ended up at Eastern Michigan. I know you said you were just at Drake, but what was your journey of getting to Drake, then getting to Eastern Michigan, and what led you to say, I'm going to go to Eastern Michigan, become a GA, and do all that fun stuff you get to do?
Sure. So I went to Drake initially to play. So I was recruited out of MICDS in St. Louis by Coach Creighton, who's now the head coach at Eastern Michigan. So that's kind of bridging the gap about how I ended up there, or had some connection to get that position. Coach Creighton and Coach Fox. Coach Fox is the O-line coach there. Recruited me as a freshman that didn't play, to come in there as a freshman, and I didn't play my senior year of high school. Got hurt. Came into Drake, got hurt again right away. ACLs back-to-back years, and that was kind of when I got a sense that I liked being around football, no matter whether I was playing or not. And so coaching was kind of put in the back of my brain with that a little bit. But I was initially a business major, and then that lasted for a year before I realized that wasn't for me. And played through my 4 years at Drake. Student taught during my fifth year and volunteered. Coached instead of playing that fifth season at Drake. Coach Fox had since become the head coach at Drake. Coach Creighton had moved on to Eastern Michigan. So once I graduated, Coach Fox reached out to me while I was an associate in the special ed department at a school in West Des Moines that I student taught at. Coach Fox reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be the part-time assistant O-line coach at Drake. And I knew I wanted to be in coaching at that point. I didn't know if I was going to do the high school route or if I was going to do the college route, but I knew that I got a chance to coach college football at a place that I love with people I know and to learn a lot. And so I couldn't pass on that. And I fell in love with coaching college football. So it was a great experience. I got to learn a ton, worked directly for a guy named Steve Flynn, who was the O-line coach who I played with as well at Drake. So we had a ton of alumni involved with the program, still do to this day, even with me leaving. But that was my first kind of entrance into college football, in a real way, other than just being a volunteer and helping out. But Coach Flynn left, and then had a brief stint with another O-line coach for a couple months, and he left. And then Coach Fox took a chance hiring a 23-year-old kid who knew next to nothing, but somehow trusted to lead the offensive line. And I did that for the 17 season, 18, 19, and 20, which was really the spring season. And was lucky enough to become the run game coordinator for the last 2 years there. Got to put a stamp on, the offense in my own way, which was really, really awesome that I was able to do that under some really good guys. Coach Warrett, most recently as the OC, gave me a ton of freedom, and it was a ton of fun. And then, I'm getting to the point where I'm not going to be able to GA here in a couple of years or in a year if I don't take the opportunity to do so now. So Coach Creighton and Coach Pike, who was a guy that I played with at Drake as well, who's now the quarterbacks coach at Eastern Michigan, reached out to me and see if I'd be interested in this GA role. And I was excited to be able to pursue it. I'm glad it worked out, and the timing was good, or as good as it can be, as far as leaving a school in the summer. But came out here to Ypsilanti, Michigan in June, and now looking back and really excited to be a part of things. And it's a different role, but I really enjoying everybody at Eastern Michigan. The guys are awesome. Program's awesome. It's very similar to Coach Creighton's program that I experienced at Drake, so I feel like I went home in a lot of ways.
It's crazy what happens, who you know and where they go, and then later on how they call you or bring you on or something. So that's why you never burn bridges. Try not to anyway. I know we all have burned bridges, but we try our best not to.
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing that I'm, 10 years after Coach Creighton recruited me out of high school, took a chance on me, having been so banged up. I remember sitting down after I got hurt in Hubble Dining Hall and, really bummed that I was injured. And Coach Creighton kind of sat down with me and was like, hey, I think by the time you're done here, you're going to have made an impact on this program, which was like, to him, he may not even remember that conversation, but like to an 18-year-old who just tore his ACL the second time in a row, it meant the world to me. And he was right. I ended up becoming a coach there. And for him to then reach out to me again and want me to be a part of things is really awesome. I mean, I'm lucky to have those relationships.
Now, did you say you played O-line, or what position did you play?
Yeah, I played O-line. I was a center. And, best position in the world, man.
Oh, man, you have a center you can send me, because we don't have my center left, and nobody. We walk in June. I'm like, who can snap? And nobody raised hand, and I said, oh, hell.
Yeah, we're in trouble now. No, centers are – I mean, you got to be a smart dude. You got to be able to snap. You got to be able to do a lot. It's really unique in a ton of ways. And they're really – when you have a good one, it's hard to not take it for granted because they're really hard to replace.
I had to move my guard to center because I like his aggressiveness, but he just got to learn to snap.
Yeah.
I've given up we were big gap scheme, but also some zone. So I need that mean puller. So I just sacrificed a puller and I put him at center. I was like, if I can't snap the ball because we're shotgun, I'm like, we can't snap the ball. We're gonna struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky to have some guys that were pretty decent centers, and like, I think also like when you're the O-line coach, you develop a bit more of an intense relationship with your centers because you rely on them for so much. They have so much thinking to do, and like everything starts with them. If you don't have a guy you can really trust to play that spot, then I mean, you just never really gain a ton of confidence in your group, I think.
Right. Yeah, I try to make center's life easy in my offense. I try to make every blocking scheme simple because I got hired to be the run game coordinator in June of 2020 like an idiot. I took it, but I didn't know COVID was going to last as long as it has. The head coach was hired February of 2020 before COVID even hit. So we were new. I mean, like –
that's tough.
Like the coaching staff had been there. He kept a lot, but I'm new. He was the DC. Now he's the head coach. But with the restrictions we had in Illinois, I saw the kids for 2 weeks in the summer, 2 weeks in October, and didn't see them again until March of 2021. So you want to talk about trying to install things? I had to become more – I'm stupid simple, I thought. I had to become even more, like, stupid with it.
Yeah. We didn't – it's different, obviously, at all kinds of levels, and we had different restrictions than you guys did at the college level and just state to state. Iowa was a little bit more open. Universities are naturally a little bit more, willing to restrict, I think, based on stuff like that. But, we got our season canceled in August, and I was going to have 4 fifth-year offensive linemen that season, but being non-scholarship, those kids couldn't come back and pay a whole other year's tuition on the off chance we were going to play. No one knew if we were going to. So they graduated. And at Drake, we're lucky enough to have guys that all have exceptionally bright futures when they graduate. Like, they're there because of the success they can have after school, so they left. You can't lose a $70,000 payday to pay $30,000 more dollars. It's a $100,000 hole. But so we had all new starters on the offensive line for the first time in my career as a college football coach. So we always had some older guys that were kind of the anchors, and ended up starting 2 true freshmen in a group. And our first 3 weeks of practice were inside kind of a makeshift indoor facility because it was -10 outside the whole time. We couldn't be outside. And, we had a ton of growing pains with almost all new starters on offense as it was, but then all new up front. I mean, that's trying to install stuff without real space to do it. Not, like the guys might know the scheme, they could draw on the board, but have they ever really done it? Like, no. The answer is no. And so, by the time we hit like week 4 or 5 of our shortened season, like we had finally accumulated like the amount of practices we would normally have in a camp.
Right.
Which is like insane to think about, that we played 4 games before we ever hit, 25 practices or something.
That's how we kind of were. Like, I saw them in July or June. Then that October, you saw them for like 2 weeks and we got shut down. You're trying to install on Zoom, and
Yeah.
that's great, but they're high school. Well, I'm dealing with high school kids. They're not going to remember that. And then we got 6 games. So, yeah, then we had 2 weeks worth of practice in March and then got to play a game. So you're right, about week 4 for us, week 5, all of our 6-game season, it started to click. And we're just like, oh, okay. Like, they're finally getting it. But I'm embarrassed to say it. I sacrificed a lot of technique for scheme because we panicked, because we were like, we have 2 weeks of practice, then we got 6 games, and that's it. Like, I gave up a lot of technique time for scheme because we have to have this in. We have to have this in. Well, they got to understand this. We're seeing a ton of 3-5. They got to understand what this is. Like, and it was just crazy. So now I've had all summer to do it. And I'm just like, I'll never take summer practice for granted ever again.
No, me neither. And, you know, we in the FCS, where I was prior to being in Eastern Michigan, we had summer access for the last 3 years. And so, like, that became a part of the calendar. Like, hey, I counted on that time to lay a foundation of how to move, how to understand my coaching cues, like, at least for the veteran guys, because the younger guys weren't usually there because, again, we weren't paying them to be there, so they couldn't always stay or didn't want to stay. Luckily, we had a lot of good turnout. But, you know, and then we hit, you know, the camp. You know, I say that in quotations, and we're inside, and there's very little time on task with the guys, and there's no foundation. So, like, we got together as an offense. We said, okay, so what can we do? What can we become the best at? Like, what's our identity? Who are we? What's the simplest things we can get really good at and kind of get the most juice for the squeeze? Mm-hmm. And for us at Drake, that was inside zone, outside zone. And then kind of our third scheme was, we thought it was going to be counter. It ended up being some G scheme stuff and some kind of one-offs. But, you know, we looked at 3 and said, hey, we could probably get really good at 3 things. Mm-hmm. And I think we probably overestimated, I think, even that. Just with such a new group, too. It was – you know, by the time the season ended, I would say we were pretty good at inside zone, you know, on the way to being very good. And then, you know, the other things we were still trying to get really, really good at. But there was certainly by week 5, which is our last game because we didn't get to play all 6, you know, I felt like we were pointed in the right direction. And that summer was going to be like, bang, time to hit the ground running and go. Because, like, nobody was new anymore. We all had some time playing, you know, at least the guys that were kind of in the top 10 or 11 of the group had all basically played that. And really valuable for those young guys. And to not lose a year of eligibility was awesome. You know, now will they be able to take it again because of the non-scholarship things? Who knows? But I feel like that we got to lay a really solid foundation as an offense that last year that I was there at Drake, which was great to leave that place better than I found it, considering it means so much.
Yeah, inside zone's my play, but right now we're struggling, and I'm a combo zone guy, and we're still struggling. And they're gonna force me to go back to the old school way of staying on your track. They're gonna do it. They're gonna force me to do that.
Yeah, I fought that battle before, Coach. I think combo zones are worth it 100%. It's a little steeper learning curve, and especially if you see a variety of defenses in a year, it can be really tough to get kids to understand the full concept. You know what I mean? Like that can be really challenging. Like, for instance, our defense at Drake plays, you know, some bare front and some even front. And so, you know, if you're multiple in your formations, you're going to have a lot of different looks, and that's hard to teach a system under those circumstances. But if you can break through that barrier, man, like the dividends I think are huge going combos, or at least as a combo mindset. Maybe there's some tracks orientation to it, but I think combos are the way to go, man. I used to be all tracks when I started, and I went to combos in 19, and we just took off running the ball, so I'll never go back.
I was at a school up here when I first moved to the suburbs in 2018, went to a school, and he loved inside zone, and we sat down. We're like, we just don't have the linemen to stay on a track, go one-on-one with a linebacker. We just don't. So we just said, what if we just combo everything? So we said, okay, and it just took off. I mean, we did go 10-1, so it was a good season, but we had good athletes. But we were just like, this helps so much to combo, at least get 4 to 5 yards on a run play. Can we come off for a linebacker? We felt more comfortable. So like you said, because I saw that, I said I will never go back to doing tracks. Now, sometimes it will. If it's a 3-4
Right.
or something, you might have to have a player or two go on a track to do that. But we would also triple team on an odd man front. We would almost triple team and go. And,
Oh, wow.
And kind of. We kind of wanted, if we were doing like inside zone right against like a 3-4, we kind of wanted the right guard to kind of step inside first, like pick his foot, put it down to see if that guy stunts. If he does, he could take him and our nose guard could go up. Or we almost have a double team right there. But what caused us to do that was we saw a team run an odd man front and they put a guy right behind the center or the nose guard. He literally had his hand on him and squatted down to hide.
Interesting.
Like, we called him just a mouse because he was like going this way or this way. And we said, how can we stop this? And we were like, let's just triple team. Let's just send all three inside. We'll hand like a dive. We'll just hand it off. If we get 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, we're good. Like we'll just keep going. And they eventually got out of it. So that's why we were kind of like, we'll just kind of triple team inside if we can. And that's what I'm trying to do now. And that's where we're struggling is odd man fronts. They don't understand that if no one shows up, you go to the backer instead of staying inside. So we're figuring out where to combo. We're just, you know what I mean? Like we're still going to the right. We're still going to the left. You got to figure out where you're going. But we got to move vertically too. And that's where we're struggling. And
yeah. No, that can be challenging. I mean, you guys see when you're seeing the odd fronts, are you seeing a lot of like 4-techs or 4-eyes or 5s? Or which one are you seeing the most of?
So this is an interesting story real quick. So when we got into the season, we wanted to be heavy gap. So we came in with power and ISO. That was like, those were going to be our 2 plays. And then I convinced them to go. They were inside zone before I got there, but they stayed on their tracks. And they just kept getting blown up in the backfield. So when I came in there, I said, hey, let's just do combos. And if you want ISO, we're stealing reps because I'm going to teach it almost the same way, except different footwork. So we were heavy power and ISO the first game. So because we were such heavy ISO, that's when we started to see more 4-eyes. Because first game of the year, we had the ball for 11 minutes. And we just gutted them with ISO. The next time we got the ball, because they run a 3-3, they come out in that tight front. They're like, we're done with this. They came out in a tight front, walked the backers down, and they said, try it now. And that's the only things we had was ISO and power read. That was it. We didn't have time to do anything, install anything else.
Yeah. I mean, that would create some challenges with a stack.
Yeah.
Odd front,
so if it wasn't for the ISO, I don't think we would have seen such 4-eyes. But you're right. It was half and half. I saw some tight and some not. But everybody's going to a 3-5. Everybody. Out of the 6 games, I saw it 4 times.
Wow, that's a lot. I think being able to be multiple, right? So one of the things that I learned my first 2 years coaching was we were a big track zone team, which I think there's merit to both. I think if you can coach both, you can manipulate both to get some vertical movement when you're tracks. You can do things when you're combos to help eliminate some of the issues with twists and stunts that can create. But the thing that I probably learned the most with my first couple of years, and that I think we did well in 19, was you have to have something that is a direct complement to your primary scheme. So if you're a big ISO team, for instance, then having a 2-back power when someone goes to a tight front, it's like, okay, well now we've got them where we want them. Or maybe it's lead outside zone or something like that, whatever those kids are good at, you know what I mean? That can complement that. So if you know that this scheme, like track zone, especially against a tight front, is a bear, unless you're going to be heavy with tight ends on the backside, or even a tight end and wing on the backside can be really good for that. But like, it can be tough because you got a lot of one-on-ones, and if you don't have the kids, then you're going to give up a lot of ground inside. But if you can run 2-back power and still be, a track zone team, well then, hey, look, there's some complement or pin and pull or whatever it might be that those kids are good at. If you got some smaller kids, then running 2-back power may not be your thing, but like pin and pull could, And if you got some athletes, you can do some good things with some RPOs off that is really, really can take advantage of that. And so being, you don't have to be multiple, but having 2 or 3 things that are just like dynamite off each other. Like, I know this kryptonite to my track zone or even my combo zone, whatever it is, then I'm going to run this, and that's going to get them out of that, or at least makes them have to guess.
I tried to fold block some. I was trying to keep it easy. I was like, well, we got a 4-eye. Maybe we fold block on the back side or the play side. ISO, same thing. We get a 4-eye. I'm going to fold block it with an insert right behind. So now you got like 2 coming up.
Sure.
And then I installed pin and pull in 2 days. Like we figured, we were like, what do we have to do? And I walked in on a Tuesday and I'm like, pin and pull.
Well, if you're already folding on some of your zone schemes, like pin and pull is kind of a natural. I mean, the angles are different, depending on what you're doing in the backfield. But like pin and pull is one of those things where I think the learning curve is relatively low. Backside gap, full block back, backside gap, empty, pull,
right.
And open, run, kick, and then wrap and fit. It's like, gap scheme, I don't think has to be a complicated beast. In fact, I think if you're a combo zone guy, I think gap scheme tends to be just a little bit more cut and dry in some ways. Pin and pull being one of those where it's like, it can be a good kind of cure-all for some of the issues that zone presents. Some of the interior stunts can be difficult on pin and pull, obviously, but I think, if you're seeing a lot of upfield players, then pin and pull is a great alternative.
No, you're right. Because then we came in this summer and I said the same thing. I said, I think inside zone's got to be the play. And they want to be power. And I said, that's great. Let's do inside zone and power.
Yeah.
And then we can do ISO, like you said, because then we can dictate, or when they shift their line or when they come in tight, now we've got a different thing to work with. But at the time in the spring, when you've got this amount of time, we were just like, screw it. Let's just go out there and put something that we could put out there. What are they picking up? And we can do it. And then I'm the type of guy that says, well, when in doubt, trap him. That's kind of my thing. When in doubt, let's trap him. So, but then that becomes another blocking scheme that you have to add of, even though it's the same thing as power in my mind, trap him. So when you get a pesky 4-eye, let's just trap him. But, that's or just fold block him because I wanted to stay inside zone. I said, let's just fold. But then if the kids don't recognize it's a 4-eye, that's another thing I had to do this summer. I don't know if you ever had to do this. I had to teach what techniques were. They don't know what that is.
Yeah, I always start teaching stuff like that, and it depends on the group, right? So like this last class I brought in Drake had 8 freshman alignment. So it was like we had kids that played in really good programs. We had a kid from CBC high school in St. Louis, just like a powerhouse football program. And then we had kids that played, really started for a year for their high school team, and they were just an okay program. And some kids that come from triple option schools, some kids that come from air raid schools, and it's like, so we got this melting pot of football knowledge. So, and then what we do is it's not that unique, but it's our own spin on stuff. So okay, here's a 0, here's a 1, here's a 2, whatever it might be. Everyone's got to be on the same page. Like I think this is kind of an random question, random thought, but have you ever read Dub Max's book about the 4 R's and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the good things that he starts that book off with is, take or leave the system as it is, and it's good. It's got merits. It's good and bad in some ways, but I think the most awesome thing about it is that it's about getting everybody on the same page of how to see the field and how to see defenses, which I think the longer I'm in football, the more I realize it's just really hard to get. If you're a Division I school, 60 whatever offensive players to see the field the exact same way all the time. I think that's really hard to do because of the background knowledge that is required. And like, hey, as coaches, all we do is watch football and talk football, especially if you're a college coach. That's what we do all day. So it's easy for us to take for granted, hey, this kid knows what a 6 is. This kid knows what a 6-eye is. Oh, well, as high school, we called that a 7. Well, and they'll learn it over time. But the faster you get everyone on the same page, the faster they can learn your scheme, the faster they can become proficient or focus on the physical things that they need to be good.
Was there any unique drills you did because I'm going to keep on this inside zone topic because that's my thing.
Sure.
Was there any like unique drills that you said, okay, this is the drills we can do to really have them pick up on what I'm seeing for combos if you have new guys coming in? Or is it just the simplest drills that we might already do, but was there like anything unique you did and you found that worked?
I don't know if this is unique, but I felt like one of the things that we did that helped was we would drill our combos in a 5 across line. So I was also the only guy working with the group. So, I'm sitting there going, so we line up all 5 O-linemen, or there's a tight end with us sometimes. And, I'm putting up the front we're going to see what we're working on that day. And, okay, so we're going to work on an Okie look. So we're going to look at 4-eye, 0, 4-eye, 2 linebackers, and, the overhangs. And then we're going to talk about, so we're going to go right from left, and we're all going to work zone right. And I'm just going to rapid fire your combos. Okay, we'll talk it through, and then it's boom. We're going tag, chug, solo. And then we combine like a half line. So we would do kind of both at the same time. So everybody's seeing how it fits together. And then we're just rapid fire reps. We would do, 2 to the right, 2 to the left, rotate the group. So it was like, we would just crank reps and everybody's seeing everything. But we're working in pieces. So I can get movement. I can come off of the linebacker. I can get, and we would do stuff like full speed. Like when we're in practice, our practice is Drake for an hour and a half to an hour 45. So if we're in pads, we're going fast and we're getting off the ball because we can walk through combos for an hour before practice or whenever we would do that. But like, I want to get off the ball because I only get so many contact moments.
Right.
So, but I think that and a lot of the guys gave me feedback that helped because they could see how their part fit in the hole and still do it. And then we were able to get a ton of reps in an 8-minute period of individual. Right. We could probably rattle off, 24 reps. So everybody's getting them. And then, if you're in season, some of your younger guys, or if you're splitting scouts, sometimes they're not even getting, so you get even more reps. And, that was always a period where you could also stop and be like, no. So here's why you need to call this. Or I would change the call last second and make them switch their combo. So they had to think, process, and still get off the ball fast. And then everyone could see behind or on the defensive side, or that's on the left side of the drill. Okay, that's why they did this, because I think the biggest hurdle when you're dealing with those young players, like we talked about, is if they can do physically what you're asking them to do in a confined drill time, then it's a mental barrier. It's their ability to make a decision that's slowing them down and making them play poor, So either you got to simplify your scheme, which sometimes it's as simple as it can be and still be effective. Well, then it's time to just put them under some pressure and then allow them to see, I think, the picture as a whole, to feel confident that what they're doing is right. And then the other thing is in a lot of systems, if you make a wrong combo call, as long as everybody's on the same page, it's going to be okay. You're still going to block the 5 most dangerous. It may just not be in the same combination that would be ideal.
Right.
So I think that was a big part of our conversation early on, was just make a decision and play your butt off. If you're wrong, you got to be wrong at 1,000%, because you know what? It'll work out. Maybe that guy's got to block a 4-eye by himself, but you know what? He's pretty good too. So you can do that.
Right.
If you just crush the nose, hey, we'll be all right. Good things will happen if we're putting guys in the dirt.
Right. Yeah. The only way I could come up with, I tried combo words and they're just not getting it. Like I said, this is what I'm dealing with right now. They're good kids. Don't get me wrong. Good kids. They show up every day, whatever. I had to tell them, okay, are you covered or uncovered? Okay, you're uncovered, because I go by head up. I don't go by shade. I go by head up. Is there a guy to the play side? So if we're going inside zone right, is there a shade to your right? Nope. I need you to peek back then and see if there's a guy we can help. And if there is, you have to. Now, are you necessarily going to double? No, you're going to kind of knife and see and get to the backer, because hopefully my center can take him if you got a 1 tech or something. But what's happening is the footwork. So I'm a big gallop guy on power. We gallop.
Okay.
When zone comes around, I try to knife step, like a quick knife step, but they're taking side steps. I'm almost to the point now where I almost have to tell them to gallop on zone, and I don't want to, because I'm like, we got to move. Gallop I like because we can control the gap and get around. So I'm coming into a question. So, like, what footwork would you tell them? You tell them just to get there? Because a lot of people are telling me that. Just tell them to get there and not worry about it.
So my default is I'm not going to force a kid to do something that he doesn't seem like to be able to do. You know what I mean? If my technique is causing so many issues for him that like he can't execute, then I'll just let him do it his way and then try to coach him up in that way. And so sort of an individual by individual basis, if that makes sense. Now, you know, obviously you're going to have things you teach. And so the footwork that I would teach on inside zone. So I think to set the stage for this, give some context, we were super downhill. You know, running back was aiming right at the butt crack of the center, and we were not looking to take this thing frontside A gap unless it was just like the Red Sea part. So that kind of sets up our aiming points and our footwork. So for any given double team, right? So play side gap open, someone to carry on your backside shoulder, okay? And I would tell guys on inside zone that you should always look to double team on your backside shoulder if you have nobody from nose to nose of the next guy, always. Because it's inside zone. We're hitting backside. So, like, even if you don't touch someone in your backside, you should be going so vertical trying to that nobody should get backside. And so everything was about attacking just inside the midline of the defender, especially on the front side. On the back side, we were a little bit wider on aiming point. It was really more just about hat placement than it was about a wider aiming point. But I'll get to that in a second. So uncovered gap, right? And I've got, let's say, just the basic 4-2 defense. I've got a guard on the front side carrying a 2 on his backside shoulder to a linebacker stacked in a 30. Okay? So we called it a crowther and strike was the words that I use. And we used some different words here at Eastern Michigan calls it jab and drive, which I actually like more than what I call because it's shorter and a little more violent. Uh-huh. So jab and drive. So jab with your open zone, your play side foot. Ignite your power is the words we use here, which, again, I really like. Some things I picked up that I'll carry for the rest of my life. Jab and drive back into the man, okay? But you're trying to gain ground the whole time. Mm-hmm. You want to be vertical. You always want to – we talk about running off the ball here. We preached BGO at Drake. I was willing to sacrifice a bit of a base, a little bit of, you know, what looks like pretty technique for violence and explosiveness. Like if your foot is, you know, this far lateral versus a little bit more vertical or a little underneath you, it's like, hey, look, did you get off the ball and did you make contact with everything you got? You know, you're not abandoning your assignment with violence, but it's like, okay, I can execute and be angry SOB off the ball. And then, you know, from there it was get your feet underneath you and play on your insteps. And then I used to teach kind of pump your off arm so that you wouldn't turn, because a lot of guys will just open their shoulders and then they just you get run through. You have no power on the double team. It's just a bad way of doing business. But the footwork was real simple, jab and drive. It was just however you felt like that foot needed to be for you to get going upfield fast and violently. And then, you know, I think in this last season, I got a little overcoaching. I overcoached that first step a little bit as far as like, no, it's got to be this way or that way, because they were really young and I felt like that would help them, and I think it hurt them. I think you needed to take the reins off a little bit more. We started doing that towards the end of the year and in the summer, and it was like, man, what was I doing the whole year? Like, I'm an idiot, you know, for not doing this earlier. But I got a little bogged down just the teaching aspect of it, not the find a way to get it done aspect of it. And from a close zone perspective, we were real simple. P on the near knee, eyes in the near V. If you were backside, we want your hat just slightly across. Just that allows you to get a little more square, and it doesn't allow guys to get upfield on you as much, because any penetration on the backside is going to just hose that play. You've got to move that backside. You know, in a lot of ways, we were doing what looks like gap scheme double teams to a lot of people. You know, there were times where we would want to have lateral double teams. We didn't have a call for it. It was really just game plan based on front and personnel. Where like anytime we were playing against an odd front or an Okie or a bear or however you would kind of look at it. But if I was looking at 3 closed gaps inside or really any head up technique, I wanted that player lateral on the double team. I didn't want to try to drive a 0 down the field. I just didn't think that was reasonable. And we had a ton of success against teams that wanted to play those types of fronts against us because we would just abuse zero techniques. We'd go two hands on with the center, and then the guard, I just said, run at his hip. Like, it wasn't scientific. It wasn't anything you would see maybe you'd probably see it in clinic if I was doing it, or some guys do it, because some guys teach that. I think it's really good. Run at his hip. You got to get upfield to get to the hip, because if you overlap at all, you're just going to run right into the center or the covered player in that sense. Mm-hmm. And so, and like, anytime you can hit a human being in his hip, it doesn't matter if he squats 800 pounds. It doesn't matter if he's 400 pounds. You go move.
Right.
Especially if he's pushing up against another human being that ain't you. So, like, we made a ton of hay against odd front teams in my time at Drake, especially the last 2 years, doing it that way. And that was, I think one of the unique things we would do in our gap scheme was how we would attack a bear front or that oaky tight look, however you want to, whatever phrase you want to use. We would do something similar where our center and our guard would basically jab and drive and strike the play side 3 or 4 eye and 0, and then fall back and down block. It would keep guys from penetrating front side, which can kill you in those fronts when you're trying to pull. That was a very easy adjustment for us to make that, my old line coach taught me as when he was a head coach. So I think little things like that can really give you an edge against those types of fronts. Just so many times in those looks, you'll get linebackers and nose guards in the same gap if you can displace a nose guard. And it allows your guard to climb, which is the whole point of that defensive structure, is to stop those guys from climbing the second level. And then if you're seeing a lot of that front, you just got to play with a tight end on or off the ball. You got to have you got to have an extra gap somehow, or you got to be really creative in the way you're RPOing and doing some different things. Right. But my go-to has always been just throw a tight end on the line of scrimmage and run zone away and run power at it.
Yeah. Or wing and split zone.
Sure, absolutely. We ran a ton of split zone my time at Drake. That was kind of our calling card the last 2 years. In 2019, that's all we ran. It was to the point where we were trying to get creative and weird about how to disguise who was coming back to block. But it was, you knew it was coming, you had to stop it. But we had some guys that were real physical at the wing spot, and we had a big physical line that year. That ain't broke,
That was the big play with split zone the past 2 years. That everybody's doing it, and then now Bucksweep's coming back. That's all I'm seeing is. I don't think in college maybe, but high school, that's all I see now is how do we run Bucksweep? Because football's coming in a full circle of we did that stuff. Now we're spread, we're RPO, and we're inside zone, and now defenses have caught up, and they're we can stop you, we can slow it down, we can move. This tight front's coming back, so how do we get around it? Well, pin and pull or Bucksweep. So it's coming.
Yeah, 100%. I think, I think you've seen some college programs and some high school programs been really successful running an I formation. Back in the day when you would draw up an offensive base formation, it was pro. It was 2 split, wide receivers, a tight end, and a fullback in the eye. And it was that was how you learned how to defend football. Well, now you learn how to defend football with 2x2 open, or 3x1 open, for your 3x1s. And it's that's base football to so many kids now. We had under center snap issues at Drake this year for the first time I can remember as a coach, because we didn't have a single quarterback that had ever taken a snap under center until he got to college.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not 65 years old. I'm 28. I learned how to play football under center, and it was a while ago. It wasn't that long. Geez, these kids never done it, So it's different. I think that if you can be a team that can or has the luxury of having some tight ends and fullbacks, or are willing to put certain guys in those spots, maybe they're not these hybrid elite guys, but can find a way to make it work, I think you can give some teams some real fits. And if you play a tight front team, tell me that you want to line up in a 3-4 tight look, play quarters behind it, and play a team that's going to run ISO strong or 2-back power. You got to have something to counter that. There, and defensive guys are probably going to blow you up. I know how to stop that, and that's great. I hope you do, but it's not what you're seeing week in and week out in high school or college football.
Or what we would do is run quarterback ISO. So now we got the wing leading up and a running
Yeah,
back for the other gap. So
there you go.
if something collapsed because they're reading that wing all the time, now they're going to collapse. Now you got the running back leading up.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, I mean, quarterback run game, it's like the great equalizer, right? Like, if you're willing to run that guy between the tackles, then, geez, do it, because it's like stealing sometimes, and like we've been guarded against that. I think a lot of teams are. If you don't have, yeah, if you have a guy who's like your guy, it's hard to want to run him on some Q power or something like that. But not for the O-line coach. It's always fun for me to try to scheme that up.
I didn't have a problem with it when we called quarterback ISO. I said, that's fine. Because I did a chalk war or against a DC at a Division III college. And I was like, oh, great, here we go. And he run the one high. First play out of the gate I did was quarterback ISO, and he goes, "You son of a."
Yeah, it's like cheating. You know what I mean? At least, especially on paper. Like, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was saying because we had to do our offense, and I said, he goes, "Is that really in your offense?" Because he thought maybe I just drew it up to be a jerk. I was like, "No, we had a running quarterback, so we literally would do this. So I'm not lying to you."
Oh yeah, I've been in some offenses with a running quarterback, some that we didn't feel like running, and just like to not have a running quarterback, you've got to be to be a good rushing team. It feels like, anyway, in my experience, you got to be really good up front, or you got to do some RPOs or some different things outside of that to give your offense some depth. It's really hard to line up under center and do those types of things like running ISO or OZ ISO or power, whatever your scheme might be. It's really hard to do that if you're not willing to run the quarterback, or if you're not really good up front, rather. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to get numbers against anybody if you're not doing that. You just got to have some hogs, and some really good running backs can always help, obviously, more so than a lot of things. But when we had a running quarterback this last season at Drake versus when we didn't have guys that were, really dynamic in the running up, they couldn't run, but they just didn't run the same way. It changed things, especially because we were so young up front. Like, we couldn't just line up and just blow guys off the ball for 200 yards a game like we did in 19. We had to replace everybody. So it was like, okay, well, what are we going to do now? Like, we probably ran the quarterback 10 times in 2019, and we were really relying on that in 20. And then we had some injury issues, but when he was in, it was like, hey, this is a lot easier.
Yeah, it makes life easier. And we had a 6'2" or 6'3" tight end last year as a sophomore, and he could put his hand in the dirt. He could be a wing, and he tore his ACL in rugby right before this. So now we lost him for the season.
That's brutal.
And so now we're sitting there going, okay, do we have another tight end? And we're looking around, and we're like, oh, we don't. So now we got to convert one. And then we're having troubles moving people vertically. So I'm keeping myself up at night going, do we just put in wide zone? Can I move people horizontally now?
Yeah. I think it's a great alternative. I'm a big believer in the wide zone, outside zone. Everybody wants to say they're different. It's the same thing. Everybody's, gets their undies in a bunch about which one's which. But, let's be real, guys. We're not really that different. But I think, you don't have to have, giant hogs to, run wide zone well. I think it takes a ton of work and a ton of reps to get good at it, especially in the backfield. I think running backs got to see it a ton to get good at it. But, when you do, you can be one of the only things you do. You can go all in on an outside zone or a wide zone and, have a couple of other things to do with it. You don't need a lot outside of that. It's good against a lot of fronts. It's even better against a lot of fronts if you can have somebody be a wing and just kind of get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about specifically an Okie look or a double eagle look or whatever the term guys are using is, and just having somebody that can body up the front side overhang. Can you make that guy be wrong? And then can you get two great double teams inside and get vertical off those and get some stretch, get some reach? Now the C gap or the D gap is open no matter what, and so that was something that we did really well in 19 with our outside zone, which we really minored in compared to our split inside zone. But it was good for us when we picked our spots in, and we were really productive in those areas, especially against those looks. Because again, with us, all of our run game was back away from the tight end when it was inside zone. And so to go back to the other side, we knew we could get an edge because you're going to play a 4 or 4-eye. I was like, hey, all we got to do is we get really good at reaching that 4-eye and 4 with some help to get to that frontside inside linebacker. Now we're at the safety level right now, as long as that wing or tight end or whoever it is makes that overhang wrong.
Yeah, I've been researching it the past week, and I'm coming in, I think, next week and saying, here's my thought. And so I've just been researching wide zone like crazy, or outside zone, whatever people want to call it. I've been just researching it nonstop. And I'm like, this could complement inside zone. Maybe it softens it up to where we can get vertical push. And
yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, thank you, because I think I'm stupid. So for someone that's in college telling that, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm onto something, because without a tight end, a true tight end is rough. We're forcing someone to be there. And I'm like, how can I help out as the run game coordinator? And I've come in, I'm like, well, what about wide zone? What about wide zone? And the fear is of getting tackled in the backfield. And I said, I think that's a fear with every run play, though. If we don't come off the combo well, we don't move people well, a linebacker's going to come flying up and make the play.
Yeah. I mean, I think your losses can be bigger with wide. Just it's more lateral play, right? I mean, it's like pin and pull. You type on back on pin and pull versus power, it's usually a little bit more. But like, I wouldn't let that stop you from running wide zone. I think so. There's a few things that I feel like I've learned about wide zone that have helped that get better as far as like the losses. And it's your running backs got to take the first cut that they can. They got to be real decisive. And like, I've heard a lot of guys talk about, hey, once you have the ball in your hands, it's 3 steps. I think 3 steps is kind of like the maximum for you to make a decision. Like, if you have any penetration, you just got to get vertical, got to get back to line of scrimmage. Coach Ware at ROC at Drake did a great job with the running backs when he coached them prior, and was like, a good running back will always get back to line of scrimmage, no matter if there's not a single guy blocked. That was like his standard. And I thought that was awesome. As the O-line coach, I was like, sweet, man, 0 negative yards. Like, you're helping me out. But like, I think the way he coached outside zone was really like specific to that. Was if there's anything in your face, get vertical and get going, no negative runs, and things then happen. Guys are getting displaced on the backside. You hit a great cutback, because I mean, the beautiful thing about a wide zone or an outside zone is like, it is C gap to C gap, which can be tough because you got to win, but like it stresses a defense, I think, much more than an inside zone does in different ways. If you have the dudes to run inside zone and just pound snot out of the defense, then yeah, run 35 times a game. I would do that if I could all the time. But in majoring in wide zone, I think opens up your inside zone stuff more, because you just get more flow. And are you guys all like split gun stuff? Or are you pistol or both? Or
yeah, we're standard 5 yards off the ball, 2x2, 3x1, and we want to go 2 back, but this summer has been so crazy, hit or miss with kids. We just been going 1 back.
Sure.
And then we're trying, since I'm pushing for, we don't have a true hand down tight end, so it's always going to be a wing. If we come in, it's always a wing.
I think you can run that outside zone lead with a wing. And again, like, I think obviously depending on matchup, I think you don't have to have a guy that can just stick his face in the fan. He's just got to be willing to make contact and just can't get crushed back. Like, he just can't get stopped at the line. I think if he's being aggressive and getting out, like motioning him can help soften the edge, can give you the look you want. That can give you some advantage. From a 2-back perspective, sticking a kid like a wing in the backfield and running outside zone lead is a really good complement to that look as well. Kind of hits a little bit different. And out of the offset gun, I mean, you're going to get outside the front side tackle 1 out of every 100 plays, probably.
Right.
Like, you're just going to cut up so much. It's going to be stretch and puncture more than anything. And a good way to kind of help get yourself to that front side is, against certain looks, it's easier than others. But, doing different folds, like you've said you had experience with, I think is really good on – I think it's even better on outside zone to fold guys than it is on inside zone. I think you just get wider gaps. You get more stretch, bigger spaces between the D linemen. And I think it helps guys climb. Sometimes that may have an aversion to climbing because they know they're pulling for a certain lineman. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
We've all had a kid who just dances on the line of scrimmage forever.
Right.
And it's like, dude, you gotta climb your butt to the next level, man. It puts a pressure on the defense, creates a level. So I think if you feel confident in teaching some wide zone, coach, I think it would be a good investment. I would tell everybody that if they felt good about their guys doing it, then they should do it because it's such a good play.
Yeah, I tried to research it, but I was coaching track, and so I was just checked out of everything. Then June hit. I said basketball terms in football practice one day. I was like, I need a vacation. And so now I'm just researching like crazy because, as you know, us coaches don't sleep well. We keep processing, like, what can we do to get better? Especially if you coach defense, you never sleep. Like, that's just, you don't sleep.
Or O-line, I think,
Well, yeah, because my brain's going, like, how can I help this inside zone? Do we do wide zone? I'm researching, I'm watching videos, I'm trying to find drills. And then I get crazy with it. I'm like, well, can we do wing? So, like, if you're a wing left, wide zone left, could you roll out and have a split guy come out? And, like, I get crazy with it. I'm like, can you run this? And maybe that's
try stuff, man. Like there's so many ways to do so many things in football. Like no one's got it all figured out. It's just, and so much of it works. Like whether you're a wing T guy, an option guy, wide zone guy, air raid guy, it all works if you believe in it and you can coach it and you can get your kids to believe in it and learn it. Like that's the trick, right? Does it fit your kids? Can they do it? And do you believe in it enough to get them to believe in it? But, why, like, you're going to go down the wide zone path again, I'll warn you, it's not going to be like the first day it's going to look great. Like you're going to bang your head into a wall for a while, and then you're going to kind of figure it out. And then it can be, you just got to be matchup cognizant because like we played some guys inside that were pretty good in the past, and outside zone freaked me out because like you get a one-on-one, it's just a harder one-on-one sometimes to win. You can have a bad athlete in space, and it's ugly. When you miss, it's ugly.
Yeah. That's maybe where I get fired if we do it. Like they'll look at me and be like, you are no longer in charge of what run plays we do. You can coach the O-line, but you can't come in and say, we're going to do this anymore. There's no more head for me to bash my head against. I think I'm good. I think I run out of wall. This COVID year, there is no more wall. And
no, not at all. Not with what you guys are dealing with.
No. To slowly wrap it up, because I've taken a lot of time. I'm curious how you guys are going to look this year for Eastern Michigan. That's one of the first things I wanted to ask. Like, how's it going? What are you guys going to look like? How's it going to go? We're back to normal, so we gotta ask how it's going to look.
Yeah, I mean, from a COVID perspective, we are, I think, as back to normal as we can be. I'm sure there's, I've only been here for a few weeks, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on Eastern Michigan yet. But I think the future's really bright with Eastern Michigan. I mean, Coach Creighton has set up such an amazing program with these guys. Like, it's rare to see so many guys, I think, bought in, believing that they're going to be good, like knowing that each other have each other's backs. Like, I think that is really unique, really special. And I think we have some really talented pieces from what I've seen so far. Again, like I haven't been in an actual practice yet, but I've watched a ton of film, been around the OTA stuff that we've done, kind of like the summer access piece. And I think there's some really good pieces in place here. And I mean, our coaching staff it's awesome. I mean, Coach Coughlin, the offensive line coach there, is a really good coach. He's already mixed well with the group that's there, and some good older linemen there for sure. Got a talented stable of running backs. One or two of them in particular are really talented. Got some receivers. We were talking about personnel earlier this week, and we got some guys that are really pretty good. And so I'm encouraged. I think that we're looking to kind of push through some new barriers for this program, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. Like I think things are moving in the right directions from what I can see.
Right.
But yeah, things are good. I mean, it's been a really good experience so far.
And one of the last things is, what advice do you have for somebody that wants to coach college or go the GA route? Like what you're doing right now as a GA, what advice, not for me, I think I'm too old now. We're not going to go that way. I think I'm stuck at high school, which is fine. Like what advice do you have? Like what's your role? Like what are you doing as a GA? So what advice do you give for someone that's like, I want to coach college? What route do you recommend and all that good stuff?
So if you want to coach college football, I think getting in with somebody that you know, and just you don't not even somebody you know, just knock on doors, call people up, find a way into a program that you have respect for, that you know a little bit about. Do your homework before you do that about the people there, and so that you can find a way to add some value and bring that up. Like I have heard stories of guys that go knock on the door and volunteer and sleep on a couch for a year. You know what I mean? Or guys that played under great coaches and then were position coaches in 3 years. There's such a wide range of ways to get involved. If you are serious about it, and you shouldn't do it if you're not serious about it, because it's a huge time commitment. Coaching in general is a huge time commitment, and it's a lifestyle. You can't just say it's a job. So you better be serious about it. But I think if you want to be a GA, or if you are going to be a GA and that's something that you want to do, the number one thing is, be quiet, listen to the guys that are around you that have a lot of experience. Nobody that's a GA has been in coaching for 30 years. It's not possible. I've had full-time roles. I've helped coordinate, but I have so much to learn. It's not even funny. Like, I work with an O-line coach who's been coaching college football for like 17 years or something like that, or maybe even longer. I don't know. He's probably going to, get mad at me for exposing his age. But we have another tight ends coach who's been in the NFL. He's been in Power 5 programs. He's been around. These guys have so much knowledge. Coach Creighton's been head coaching for, 20-some years. And, it's like, that's just like the three guys that are coming to my head right now. There's so much football to learn, and there's so many different ways of doing things. Like, you have to just shut up and learn. And you got to check your ego at the door, because, 6 months ago I was building game plans and building an offense, and then now I'm making scout cards. Not that we didn't do that at Drake, but I love that. I just get to be involved in this program. I get to learn. I get to do all these things. It's not about, oh yeah, you're not a full-time guy, you're not a coordinator. That doesn't matter. It's add a ton of value, work your butt off, shut up and do your job, and do it really well. My dad taught me 3 things to always live your life by: be smart, be hungry, and be humble. And so if you do that as a GA, or as a coordinator, as a head coach, as a high school head coach, or as an accountant, I think you'll be successful. But the other thing is just be ready to spend a ton of time working. And you better love what you do. I think if you coach, but especially when you're in those roles where you're not the guy, you're not getting paid a ton, you're not, getting a ton of recognition. Don't do it for those reasons. Do it for other reasons. And because you love the game, because you love working with young men. Otherwise, you're just going to be miserable, because it's not easy to do all that stuff. It's not easy to coach football at the collegiate level or the high school level. But yeah.
Well, that's a good answer. I know plenty of people that have GA'd, and they tell me the same thing. So it's nice that it's consistent. It's not any different. They tell me the same thing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm too old for that now. So
yeah, it's part of the game, man. You got to earn your stripes, and sometimes you got to earn them more than once, and that's the way it should be. That's how you keep the game what it is.
Right. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you coming on here. I will watch Eastern Michigan now. Now I have a reason to go watch. When I'm not watching my U of I, I'm a U of I guy. Brent Bill
I got you.
Guy, but
yeah, well, I'll forgive you for that as long as you catch a few of our games. And I appreciate your time today, Coach, a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Yep. No, I appreciate you. I love how coaches say yes to come on here. So this community is just great for anybody to be like, yeah, sure, we'll talk ball.
Yeah.
Especially after COVID, we're all inside all the time. This is therapy sometimes.
Oh yeah, man. Give me an excuse to talk football. I don't care who it's with. I love to talk ball. So again, anytime you want to talk ball, man, just hit me up. All right.
You got it. All right, guys out there listening, thank you so much. We're signing off from the Coach Steve Show.